Dear gracious and wise and eternal God, we thank you this morning, Lord, for blessing a few of your humble servants to come out of those. We thank you, Lord, for watching over us last night as we slumbered and slept. Lord, we pray a prayer for all those that are sick in the hospitals and the nursing homes. Lord, pray, and we thank you for our teacher, Dr. Greenfield. Amen.
Amen.
All right, good deal. Thank you. Just an update, got a chance to see Brother Barber yesterday down at Grant, and he's doing okay. I think not a little disoriented, kind of trying to find his way. This part was a little trouble, understanding so I guess they're running a series of tests to see what's going on. They can't find out what's going on. Doesn't blood work. I think she said he went in there Thursday. I'll just give you a little update how this comes up. But, he went in there Thursday. She didn't let the church know because you know what? Just checking out what's going on. Then okay, we'll just keep him overnight until Friday. And one day turn into another, So just want to keep him in prayer. Like I said, this is a little concern. They kind of identify what's going on. What else we have going on here? This is an announcement. This is getting way ahead. You get the call and the change of the service.
Yes.
Okay, yes. I made a mistake. Every other first Wednesday of the month, we have the church come in. We had Christ Memorial came in February, Pastor Fowler. In April, first Sunday in April, first Wednesday in April. Oh, you're waiting on me? Okay, all right. First Sunday in April. First Wednesday. Want to see if you were listening? You don't say first Sunday again. I made a mistake in my schedule and, scheduled something and looked up and caught it yesterday. So thank God at the pastor's conference yesterday, I caught Pastor John Little. We're going to do that the second Wednesday. And that's way ahead. I'll give you plenty of those. Will be in the bulletin. Now, not on the pulpit, just so you know. That's not in March, not this time, April. So we have that coming out. So, other than that, I told you last week we were going to do this in, this is lesson number 8. We were going to, you know what? It's not going to work like that. We were going to do it in 2 lessons. But what I did was kind of condensed it. We should finish this today. Unless you have some questions I don't have answers to, which could happen, and I have to get those next week. But other than that, if you don't get too deep on it, Sister Ruth, we should get through this today. Okay? I don't know what that is back there. Oh, that's what that was. My flash drive coming up. Here we go. I say here we go. I would say cross your fingers, but since this is the church, you should be praying. No rabbit twists. All right, very good shape. We'll see. If we can, watch now. We're looking at Jesus' method of making disciples. And we know that's the charge we're going to look at a lot today. That very text. And what we're looking at is how he matured people in the faith and his whole method. And really, I don't know about for you, but for me, in a lot of senses, even with all my seminary training and 10 plus years of pastoral experience and working in full-time ministry, in some regards, it was kind of shocking to my system to kind of see how he did it, especially when you kind of break it down. So let's review, since this is the last one. This will be our last, well, I say our last, necessarily our last, because what we'll do next couple weeks, maybe something a little different. But let's review. Let's go back over the process. The first 7, what was the first thing he did? You remember? Selection. He chose 12 people. That's revolutionary to me. See, we think in terms of, we're gonna talk about this today, if you had his kind of voice, his kind of wisdom, his kind of knowledge, his kind of teaching, why not just put that out there, wow the crowd, and just draw this big crowd? He could have done it. He didn't do it that way. He said, I'm gonna start with 12 and build from there. We're gonna kind of see why he did that. Okay, next thing, what did he do? Association. He said, I got 12, let me come close to it. What was the third? Consecration. Is that it? I'm not looking. I'm just guessing. Consecration. Okay. They had to follow. Number 4 was impartation. Okay. What I have to give it away. Number 5 was, we're getting closer to where we're at. What's number 5?
Demonstration.
They demonstrate. Okay. In other words, with our DOC, I have to give it away, but I also have to model it in front of you. Okay, what was number 6? Okay. I don't even have my book with it. Delegation. Okay. Okay. Couldn't do it all itself, so I have to give some of the work away. And then the last week, number 7, we talked about, what was it?
Supervision.
Supervision. There you go. Okay. So now let's get number 8 today. Let's see what that looks like. Everybody should have a handout. If you don't have that, I have those. Corner on the back of the computer there. Just forget that. Let's see what number 8 is. Anybody want to take a while to guess what might number 8 be? We know it's going to end with the O-N or P-I-O-N or something on the end. What might it be? Any wild guesses? This is the last one. The situation. Infatuation. Interpretation. What could it be? What do you think, sister? I like that. Huh? That's not it, but that's a good one. There's a sermon in there somewhere. Cooperation. Cooperation. I like it. Let me give it to you. Okay. Those are good. Good calls. And let's see what we get here when we talk. The Lord is good, and His truth endures all generations. Number 8 is reproduction. That's where we've been going with this whole thing. Reproduction. When you think of reproduction, what do you think of? Multiplying, making more of something. Okay. Seed.
The seed.
Okay.
Doing the same thing.
Okay. Let's repeat the process. Okay. Good deal. That's it. You nailed it. I guess we can go on then. Say, get your blanks first. All right. It says, go and bring forth some fruit. John 15 and 16. Okay. He expected them to reproduce. Okay. Now look at what that's not saying. It's not saying he expected them to be good Bible students. Nothing wrong with that. He expected them to preach excellent sermons. He expected them to have a good prayer life. All that's good. But he said, no, I want more than that. I want you to what? Reproduce. Okay? What would you figure? How much of that? Oh, you know what? I've got something I've got to go up and get. Give me a second. You have to see this. Deals just with this. And here's what you think about it until I get back. You can talk about it, do it in groups, do it out loud, however you want to do it. What percentage of our churches, kind of worldwide, if you will, the church in general, is reproducing like that, like we should be? Give me a percentage when I get back. Okay? Let's talk about it. You understand this question? Okay. But what I'm getting, you have to see.
5%. I would say 5%.
Okay. A little thing called keys. Look my keys. Yeah.
It was like, so it is. But they are,
I think 5 to 10% because of that, we wouldn't have prisons, we wouldn't have all these other things that are going on in the churches really in the business of reproducing. I mean, that's my personal opinion.
Well, you say that, I don't think
Then you know, somebody have to think of that. Allow Christianity. That in that are they? So that might take over. Those nations that are not allowed to serve still have faith.
But you know, the Catholic Church is having an appetite now to get people to come back.
because they closed that lot of churches. So down there in South Bend, I know a couple of older churches. They
I mean,
got
they have this thing that, a commercial for the Catholic Church until recently. Right. But that's true. Yeah.
There's so much. Say what? This smaller, this Catholic.
Okay, what you come up with? What do you think? Rough, these are rough numbers. 5, 15. I don't know. I'm not gonna give you a number, but what do you think? 5, 15, 20? I say 22. 22-ish?
But she has 89.
89? Okay.
I want it.
Okay.
Because when you count your Catholic churches around, it's far and far between.
You say
You got small.
That's it, nah. You know, now, I would venture, that churches, I would say that number's under 20%. Matter of fact, maybe even under teens. Worldwide. And especially in the U.S., because here's what we do. We think in terms of growing the church. And we think in terms of how do we grow to the church, we add to the church. So if you want to add to the church, there's a couple ways we can do that. We can get some fantastic ministry going on, and folks see it, boom, they want to come be a part of it. You can get a dynamic speaker. TBJ said he'll grow your church for you. Well, did you know? Come on. 98% of the growth in the U.S. is transfer. Did you know? I'm getting a little bit out there. 4,000 churches a year close their doors. Close. Yeah. Wow. Okay. So we're thinking in terms of adding. In other words, how can we get more members? Well, Jesus said, no. If I want to do that, I just went up on the mountaintop, preached my best sermon, did a revival about 5, 6, 7 days. I had about 1 million. But once those 1 million died, that didn't it. I took 12 so they could reproduce, and they could reproduce. Watch this. What would happen if we got away from an addition, adding mentality and started to multiply? What would happen? Watch this. Who has good penmanship? Right over there. These might come up there. Just quick. Just on me. Just go to the numbers. Okay, we don't need it. I got that chicken scratch. Now watch this. Watch this. Hypothetical. Let's say Minister Hyde. We say, you know what? Oh, no. Let's say you two. Since you heard the Bible study, you You say, I know Pastor's big on this thing, and maybe it's a kick ahead, maybe he read some book, I don't know what it is, but he's fired up about it. Let's go ahead and give it a try. Okay, let's do this, okay? So these two are going to take two, and let's say the training, they're going to take roughly a year, okay? So at the end, if each one of them is just one person, at the end of the first year, how many people trained disciples do we have? 4. It's not a trick question. Those two plus the two they got. Okay? At the end of the second year, if the 2 people plus the 2 trained, then you have what?
6. Oh, that's
8. It's double. Okay? Okay? Let's I'm gonna take you on down to the 4th year. You got 16. Okay, the 4th year. You got 16. These are just trained. It's not even training people doing okay. At the end of the 5th year, you got 32. For the 4th year, you got 16. Just argument the year, and just 5 slash, okay. Now at the end of the 5th year, you got 32 people. If we bought into this, let's stop trying to wow folk and put on events and get them to come and join. At the end of the 6th year, you got 64. Making sense? Man, this is slow with it. Watch me. At the end of the 7th year, you got 128 people trained. At the end of the 8th year, 256. 256. In the 9th year, you got 512. I'm going to jump you up some years so we can come on. 18 years down the line, you got 262,144 folks trained. 262,144. That's in 18 years. Okay? Let me come on, cut to the chase. Let's go, we'll go even, we'll go 20, 25, 30. And after 20 years, you have 1,048,048, 576. You got over 1 million folks. At 25 years, that's 20. Now you have 25. You don't have 2 more. 25, you got 33,554,432 people. Okay. At the end of 30 years, you've got 1 billion. Billion. 073, 743, 424. There you go. So watch. If we did this, within 35 to 36 years, you could win the world. Jesus has been gone 2,000 years. We could do it in 36 years. If we stop trying to add and do a reproduce, multiply. All right, here we go. Let's go. Thank you, Minister Smith. Okay, so I just wanted to show you that. To show you that we can add, but when those people that you added, when they stop, it stops. If we reproduce and multiply and you get a disciple, we're going to see a negative disciple, that's when the church explodes. That was Jesus' intention. Here we go. On your sheet. I'm making sense so far, so good? Okay, on your sheet. So here we go. Watch now. I don't know if he the race on like good hard work. This does a good job. Okay. So watch me. So we know what this is. Not plus minus, not negative, positive. We've got our DOC, and we're trying to mature them in Christ. Amen. Nothing there. So here comes the question. And this is what's on your sheet. We must ask the question. Now, here we go. You've got a DOC, that's our disciple of Christ. That's the person we're trying to mature and walk through the faith. The question we want to ask is, when is our work with our DOC complete? In other words, we just kind of gave you a year, and we're kind of maybe kind of work with that number, but how do I know when it's finished? I mean, and we're going to probably come back next week, and I'll give you maybe some particular things to look for, but just in a general sense, how do I know when when they're here and they're mature. You say we're trying to mature them in faith. Let me give you things. Number one, it's not when we get them from unsaved and unchurched to saved and church. See what I mean by that? Okay? And I'll show you why I say it like that. Many of our DOCs that we're going to get in this process, because we're going to do this, we will not have done a lot to get there. Maybe think of last year's thing. Listen to this. Jesus, woman at the well, verse 35, John chapter 4. Do not say there are yet 4 months and then comes the harvest. Behold, I say to you, lift up your eyes and see. The fields are white for the harvest. Already he who reaps is receiving wages and is gathering fruit of life eternal, so that he who sows and the one who reaps may rejoice together. For in this case, here's one, the same is true. One sows, another reaps. I sent you to reap that for which you have not labored. My point is, many of the DOCs you're going to get in this church, really, somebody's going to join, and we're going to bring them to you and say, okay, that's the relationship maturity. So you really didn't do a lot. But let's say in this case, let's say you've got a neighbor, you've got a niece, you've got a granddaughter, you've got someone incarcerated who may not be saved. So I began to share the gospel. I began to start praying for them and witnessing to them and giving them literature, etc. So one day, maybe they make it to church or maybe it's wherever they're at, they come to faith in Christ. What I've just done is this. Make sense? They just got saved. But when they get saved, the work gets done. Make sense? Okay? Let's look at this scripture. Matter of fact, you just look up here on the wall. You have to turn. And just in the first word, it tells us what? Go. Go. So when we go, when people embrace the message and they say, you know what? You somebody, maybe a nephew, a grandson, granddaughter, or a neighbor. I've been trying to get them to come to church for 20 years. Finally, they come in and say, you know what? I didn't see it before, but I see the light that this Jesus you've been telling me about, I'm all in. Guess what? Work's not done. Okay? Because we got again another passage. It says, go and preach the gospel to every creature. Even though we've done that, they embrace the gospel, work is still not. Make sense? Okay, let's keep pushing. All right. That one was pretty easy. So in other words, all we said so far, when is our job complete? Not when we get them saved. Okay? Now, some of the people we're going to get, that's why I started that way I did. They're already be saved. Okay? But even if they are, when we kind of get them saved, they're not. When we get them saved, still not done. Secondly, our work is not done when we build up our newborn babies in the faith of Christ. Okay? Let's look at those scriptures. I'll just write that. That Hebrews passage, that's one we looked at this last week, I believe. And the way I got kind of building them up, there's a lot of different texts we could have used, but here it says, go and what? Make disciples. What I'm teaching them to observe what I commanded, that's building them up. That's this. In other words, Sister Robinson, number one says, because we did this, doesn't mean it's over. So we may think, okay, if we build them up in the faith and they start doing this, then maybe it's over. Because they came in, let's see, what's that? I just got to quote you the Matthew passage. What's that Hebrews say? That's the one we read last week.
We have much to say about this, but it is hard to explain to a slow learner. In fact, though by this time you ought to be speaking, you need someone to teach you the elementary truths of God's word all over again. You need milk, not solid food. Anyone who lives on milk, being still in it, is not acquainted with solid food is for the mature, who by constant training for extended.
Okay, that passage says a couple of things. It says that God expects growth. Some of you by now have been teachers, but it also says that growth is a process. Solid food is for the mature. Watch me. Solid food isn't for babies. So in other words, God understands that people are going to come into the church and come into the faith and not already be there. In other words, building up our DOC in the faith, that's a part of it. Just think about it. We had a couple, what had a little thing Sunday? I had a couple, a dog couple, join church to get baptized at the same time. I thought it was just wonderful. But, and watch this. We have a member came to me and said, Pastor, I'll take the young man, Todd, and he can be my DOC. Woo! Somebody's getting it. Whoa, already. But here's where I'm going with this. So I guess, and this is not anything too personal, Brother Todd, I guess he told the discipler that, hey, I'm a blank sheet. I don't know a lot about this, and I'm new. So my point is, Todd's here. Todd Neville, one of our newest members. So we have to build him up in the faith, right? God understands that that's a part of the process. So let me ask you this. What are some of the things we need to do and should do so that people who are here grow in the faith? What should we be doing with our DOC? Be several things. Okay, I like that. Keep in contact with them. They have any needs, they have any concerns, confused about some things, what else?
Invite them to Bible study.
Okay,
Read scripture with them.
okay,
And discuss scripture, not just read it, but
Gotcha.
to discuss it.
we want them to get a better understanding of the word, because they don't know. You say, open up to Deuteronomy, it's like, oops, table of content, it's okay, because they don't know, okay, so they need to get a better feel for the word.
You can share your testimony.
Okay,
Your guys have you.
gotcha. Kind of your ups and downs and struggles. Hey, I've been there too. I didn't start until work said, okay. Okay. Kind of living, what we're saying, living as an example before them. That's that demonstration piece we talked about. Okay. Anything else we're going to help our DOC with? They don't have a prayer life. Don't know the value of a prayer life. When do I pray? How do I pray? What do I say? Do I, what's that look like? So my point is, we're going to pour all this into them, and let's say they watched us, we've demonstrated some things, and they get to the point, let's say, hypothetically, it's a year down the line, okay? And so let's say they're a quick study, they learn kind of quickly. We get them down here, they've got a solid prayer life. We also want to help them to be aware of the need, not only for Bible study, prayer centers, but for worship. Well, why do you go to church? You just go to go? No. We go to worship God. That's a part of who we are, where we come to recognize who He is in our life and give Him His just due. So they have a strong, we're going to say strong or solid worship life. And they were exceptionally quick. We don't know how, as a Bible student. Maybe give them some memory verses, that kind of thing. So they're good Bible students. We've seen a lot of change in behavior or habits, and not everybody comes into the church doing drugs and down. For some people are morally pretty much there. But let's say, and maybe even some people, it was a pride thing. I didn't think I had anything to work on. So whatever that was, we'll say change in behaviors. Behavioral, of course. Watch this. Less than a year, one of the best givers in the church. That would be pretty mouthful, wouldn't it? Okay? Okay. Solid giver, I think what else? We've got Bible study in there, got the prayer, devotional life, the worship life. They're involved in service, involved in, say it again. Okay. Kind of get them into the service in the community. Okay. Yeah, that's going to be a part of the worship life. That includes their Sunday at 11, their fulfillment hour. Church is open and we're doing some worship there. Anything else you want to put in there?
They're starting to see.
Okay.
Their whole, it goes back up to that change in their behavior and all of that.
Okay.
So you start seeing.
Okay. So they become an example. Was it okay? Okay. We'll just put that. And R.
All the things are not going according to how they should. And they fear God first and know. Make them know.
Okay.
Their words and not other people's words and stuff.
Okay. Yeah.
That
We were trying to kind of look at trying to look at things that would kind of show that they're mature. Anything else that kind of shows that they, in other words, they started here. I didn't know scripture, I didn't know anything about prayer life, I didn't know anything about worship, but now look at me. Oh, I've grown. Anything else we leaving out?
I think when they start, if it's your DOC, number one, you're spending a lot of time sharing.
Mm-hmm.
And somewhere along the way, they're going to be giving to you as much as you're giving.
Okay. Okay.
Because I might share during
Okay.
prayer, we're going to pray about citizens, y'all don't have any problem. I mean,
Okay.
they're going to start being a
Okay.
real blessing to you.
Okay. We could even put maybe accountable in here in the sense of they're becoming, let's say here, I thought it was all about me, but now I'm accountable to God. I'm accountable to my DOC. I'm accountable to my fulfillment hour class. So kind of speak for myself. Anything else?
I think they start to share with others their growth. I think that's
Okay. Okay.
Share with, even with their field, with their sacrament, but also with people that are not in the church. They can come to you and say, you know, I told my friend, blah, blah, blah. My friend come, I need to talk to my friend because I've learned a lot. I gained some knowledge and I want to share
Got it.
my
Mike.
testimony.
Okay. Probably some other things we could put up here. The point is, if you had that in one person in less than a year, say in a year, you got some spiritual power in your hands. Because think about it. Some folk been in the church, huh? Okay. So my point is, even if we did that, you took those two in a year, and that's where they're at, still not done. Process still not complete. Okay. What are we missing? Let's see. Am I making sense? Let's see what we missed. Okay. Number 3, still not when they start, and this is something we kind of heard a little bit about, kind of left out, when they start winning souls. Watch me. Because if we put that on there, they were doing all that. They're giving, they're a giver, giving, they're giving, a nice prayer life, worship life, they're a Bible student, change their behavior, service the community, they're an example, they're accountable. Woo! We're going to go to Christian there. So one of the things we didn't say was they're sharing their faith and bringing people to Christ. Now, quick word on here. So let's say, winning the loss. Because, did you know, you've heard me say this before, that mature Christians, guess what they do? They share their faith. That's what mature Christians do. Now, if I'm here, I may not do that. But once I'm mature, I start sharing my faith with others in one way or another, okay? So, watch me now. They got all this going on. So what they're doing, look what they're doing. There's people here, I'm witnessing the people on my job, and not only am I witnessing, I'm bringing some people across the line. I got that cousin. I got that friend I was in the, used to run the streets with. I got, co-workers. I'm not only just sharing my faith, but look at them. These four I'm sharing, boom. I'm winning the loss for Christ. Okay. Let's look at the scriptures. One we used for when we had the Who's on Your List sermon series. What's that say? Somebody read it.
Now then we are ambassadors of Christ, as with God we are pleading through. We are pleading through us. We implore you on Christ's behalf, be reconciled to God.
Okay. Good deal. Now watch this. In your relationship with your DOC, one of the things you're going to have to communicate and see, now watch, this falls into your mindset. That deals with your mindset. In other words, you've heard me say before, I can't give away what I don't possess. So in other words, if I'm not sharing my faith, see, maybe I make the list up, and you know what? Since I don't do it, I didn't tell them to do it. And guess what happened? The process stopped. We added another one. You made a heck of a member, but give her even a fulfillment hour teacher. But the process stopped. So, and this is maybe what we'll talk about next few weeks, maybe a little more formal look at what that looks like, this maturity looks like. But my point is, as the discipler, I need to make sure I'm doing all this. That makes sense? If I'm not doing it, then I just might not ask you to, okay? Or I may not even think that it's necessary. So I have to have a mindset that says, I started, you got here, day one. We started, I got you February the 12th, 2012, this coming Sunday. And that Monday the 13th, we started our journey. Matter of fact, we started that night. I called you when you got home, told you I'd be calling you, checking on you, etc., etc., etc. And where I'm really leading you to is not just this. I'm trying to lead you to a point where you become a reproducer. So, and I understand that if you never get here to sharing your faith, you're not going to reproduce. I don't care what you do.
I'd like to ask you a question about this word. I'm speaking for me. What does the disciple learn? Speaking for me. I've done all of those. Maybe I don't know about many, so I really don't know. Because people really know the Spirit. But all of those, maybe that disciple catches the passage. And sometime that disciple learn, falls out of some of those ways. Who does disciple learn?
That-
Is that someone?
That person that brought them in. That person that brought them in. And we're kind of talking part of it, I'm sorry. Say it again. Give me the scenario again. What did they do? This person. I know they got passed by their VOC. I got that.
And maybe possibly the disciple, not only met or came to the disciple was or is, but also the disciple even comes back
This is called unfaithfulness. This is called term used in the church. Now, I don't know. Kind of depends on what you're saying. If you're saying that just because my DOC goes on and does greater things than I do, it's not necessarily sinful. That's going to happen. Because we're going to get some, because different people have different gift abilities, talents, commitment level, and all that's going to play into how far I go. So I'm saying that in and of itself is not inherently sinful. But if what I hear you saying is, yeah, they passed me because I kind of gave up, or I fell out, or I stopped coming to church. But that's a lack of faithfulness. That's what that is. Mm-hmm.
And part of that's covered in that accountability because at some point, that's going to be your accountability partner. And some of that's going to come up in the discussion with who is supposed to be your DOC. If you are accountable to each other, it's going to come up.
And especially if they kind of pass you and I'm doing great things for the Lord, and I kind of look back and, hold on now, I haven't seen you in church anymore. Which I probably wouldn't let it get that far, but what's going on? Some things we need to talk about that kind of. But I thought the initial question was kind of, who's kind of handling that person, or there was somebody, whoever that was, we didn't get to that point, or didn't talk about that walked them that far. We're going to talk about that in the next step, how all that kind of looks up. You don't understand what I mean? In other words, if these are the two we gave away, and then one of their DOCs passed them, somebody discipled him. I'm saying, and that they still have it. Good question. Good question. Okay, let me give you the floor. So, watch me now. This review is real simple. There's not, the process isn't complete when they get over. It's not complete when we build them up and they become this mature Christian. It's not complete once they start winning the laws. The process becomes complete when they, there you go, Sister Robin, go and make leaders out of their converts, not simply more followers. Okay? So watch me now. Followers. I'll tell you just what I mean by that. Because watch this. Let's take that scenario. This DOC, for lack of a better term, blew up. Like, it's kind of like you get who am I thinking? The Tiger Woods. That kind of software only comes around once every 30, 40, 50 years. You don't get everything, okay? So this DOC was exceptional. And did some great, great things. And that's why when we see this DOC, not just share their faith, he or she is winning folk in Christ. Okay, watch me now. So by just virtue of that much, if we stop right there, they're winning people to Christ. I'm winning to Christ. All these four, you say that they won, those are their kind of followers. Okay? You know what I'm saying? Because I'm on you, boom. I got all kind of folks on. But still not finished. Why? It's not finished until, so hypothetically, I won you two. I was that person. I didn't want to say it, but I got to pass it. Anyway. No, one of you got past that. No, what did But anyway, I won these two. You had the DOC just caught on fire, doing great things for the Lord, getting these people up, getting these people getting into the faith, but it's not stopped then. Now the DOC has to take these forward. Boom. And it stops, or now it's complete, when the DOC has got the followers to where they're ready. Now it's complete. That makes sense? What happened? Okay. Boom. That's something. They had the DOC, it's Sister Williams, just one, so it won't be confusing. That DOC caught on fire, went souls, got mature, giving, involved, fulfillment outlet, not finished. Hey, I won 13 people to Christ this month, still not finished. I got to get your DOC has to get those 13, mature them to the point where those 13, and maybe, you know, some people may fall away, etc., but get those 13 where they're mature and now they're ready to start making leaders. Guess what you just did? You didn't add, you reproduced. Now that's how the church explodes. That make sense? Because, once again, let's say the DOC, hypothetically, the way he kind of gets them, he just got to get the game. And a real good speaker and eloquent, I'm gifted with words. And I'll get them to the point where they can get people. All I did was get 13 people. It ends right there. I talked my way up on 13 folk. But if I get the 13 folk to develop, where now I'm leader, and guess what? I'm not just this leader teaching fulfillment hour. I'm ready to go back and get 13 more. Boom. Explode. That makes sense? Everybody with me? Okay, so that's when what's that text say? We didn't look at the text. What's that say? I know that first part, 10:31, whatever you eat. Whatever you drink, whatever you do.
So whatever you eat or drink or whatever you do it all for the glory of God. And then we'll go back to one. Do not call anyone to tell me whether you drink for the church of God, even as I try to please everybody in every way. For I am not seeking my own good, but the good of many, so that they may be saved. Follow my example as I follow the example of Christ. Praise ye for
Yeah, that's it.
in everything to the Holy Spirit. Yes, I ask them on you.
Okay, good deal, good deal. So in other words, imitate me as I imitated Christ. And what they learned from me was, I need you to mature. I've got some expectations on your life. Once you mature, you're going to be sharing your faith. Once you win those to Christ or somehow online, you'll be given the DOC who you are expected to mature in the faith, to develop them where they are a leader and they're going back in turn getting somebody else. That's what you saw in me. Now that's what your DOC sees in you. Imitate me. Not about me. That's where we kind of started off. All started off. It's all about God's glory. Kind of make sense? What we did? Questions on that? Thoughts?
At some point now, this class that we to learn to move on to the next level. At what point does our DOC do they go through that process, which we roll with paper in hand? I mean, so that they've had some training above just what we're giving them through association. At some point, don't we give them actual?
Got to be thinking kind of material or?
Yeah, I mean, because if we had a DOC, we'd have this to reference.
Oh, okay.
Right. At some point, when they're ready to go out, shouldn't they have
Gotcha.
some kind of a document?
That's what we're putting together. I'm slow for myself. Simulation team. It's kind of a manual. It'd be like a cipher's manual. Because one of the things I'm going to need to know is, what does maturity look like? In other words, what are the expectations for my DOC? And just what you're saying, we won't have to guess about it. Because what we're going to say is in this document is, here's the way things you should do with your DOC, but here's what maturity looks like. And maybe even levels of maturity. You know, initially we'll start with the emotional life, that kind of etc. But maturity, so you'll have a document. Gotcha. Okay. Right, makes sense. Good question. All right. Let me give you some applications we can walk with. Just 3 I happen to come up with. You can look at this, look at what we talked about, and come up with 3 or more, I'm sure. You know what? Let's go here. Okay. Let's see. here's my number one. In making disciples, I must think in terms of multiplication, not addition. So for me to do that, I've got to have big picture perspective in the sense that this is a process. I have to work the process. I have to stay with the process. And I'm not trying to draw a crowd. I'm trying to develop leaders and develop leadership. As a matter of fact, in our fulfillment hour classes, that's what they should be, kind of incubators for leadership. Kind of where we bring people along, because the motto in past has been sit for 40 years and get information on it. Never really do much with it, maybe a little service. Develop leadership. Why? So I can multiply, so they can in turn go back. Develop leadership. I'm multiplying, not drawing a crowd, not adding. Kind of make sense?
Yes.
Okay. Number two. If you have any comments on these, just stop. With my DOC, I must be committed for the long haul. Because the scenario we got was the DOC passed us. People are going to learn at different rates. And we said all this happened within a year. Probably not. And that's pretty quick for a year. I'm saying now, depending on how much time we spend, depending on what they bring to the table, maybe not. Depending on how much time they have. We be busy. But the point is, it's going to be more than likely, instead of this, would be great. Sometimes it's going to be this, just like we are. Up and down and miss an appointment and then you got to get back together and we have to be committed. And I've got to bring you through here because I can't afford to let you go and fall. Now, and go back to what we said earlier, a part of what they bring to the table is their level of commitment. You can't make somebody be committed. Understand that. But if they're committed to the process, I'm here for the long haul. Okay? Now, I'm here to see you mature. Okay? Thoughts on that? Make sense? Okay. My third and final application was, I must remember that more than simply sharing and living my faith, I am producing legacy growth. In other words, I'm not just about doing ministry and living well and being an example. Those are great things. Getting involved in the church. Those are all great. But if I can work this process, what I'm doing, legacy work. Because what that says is, watch this. Take New Salem. Take Robert Parsley's church. Take the vineyard. The measure of a ministry is not the budget. It's not how many people they get in the seats. The legacy of a ministry is how well are you producing disciples for the future. You can get a crowd of 1,000 today, and in 30 years, have 200 folks. That 1,000 didn't do anything. Or you can get a crowd, you get a small little group of 47 today. Start reproducing, and then down the line, legacy. Years down the line, you got a couple million folks worldwide, churches planted, etc. Why? Because you reproduce and didn't try to act. That make sense? So we want to think in terms of it and see, watch me now. Number 3, therein lies kind of the challenge and the charge. Because in the sense it's saying, Wesley Greenfield, try to add if you want, but your ministry, your life, what you really did is going to be based on what's happening when you move off the scene. If it stops with you, then I hope it was good. But if you put something in place where the kingdom grows and grows, and the thing is, all of us can do it. I can start with one person. Boom. They're a leader. Boom. All of us have the to have legacy mentality. Okay? Thoughts on that? Kind of make sense? Mhm.
I have another question.
Sure.
First off, I wanna say that the term doc, I'm gonna be honest, I don't know about everybody now. I never knew what that meant
Okay.
until a few weeks ago, and I was being written on the board of Disciples of Christ. I
Okay.
always thought when we were in the pulpit, and when we say doc, it seemed like it was dressed more to men. I thought it was a term among men.
Well, it kind of depends on how I use it. I call everybody doc.
Right. So I wasn't catching all that, but I was
Everybody's
like, wow,
doc.
you gotta be kidding.
Got it.
But with that said, my question is disciplers.
Mhm.
Okay. Okay. I understand the whole process and what the job of the discipler is. Okay. Now, when a discipler,
Mhm.
and you said they can always go back, whether their disciples who pass whatever to their DLC.
Mhm.
Okay. In my case, I have not been with that person for years.
Got it.
So, can I be adopted?
Mhm.
I mean, or is this,
Mhm.
is that something that can be
No, I got you.
prayed over? Can you ask somebody? I mean,
Yeah, no, that's a great question. I think we'll do with this piece. Because once we kind of get the standards, if you will, or kind of what we're looking for together, and say we put this on paper, and we say a discipler should be this, it should be this, it should be baptized, it should be this, it should be leadership, giving, whatever. We put that together. Somebody may look at that and say, guess what? That's not me. So, and if we're honest about it, I may say, hook me up with a disciple. Or I may look at that and say, I'm picture perfect, but I'm pretty much there. Maybe I need a little more training, etc. So I think we want to give people that option. And if you think about it, maybe everybody is not that disciple. Then not everybody's kind of at a point where I'm ready to do that. Maybe it's mentality, maybe it's time, maybe it's know-how. So, no, that's not a bad thing. I think that's a good thing. Thoughts on that? Anything? Thinking of it? Not necessarily, just a head thought.
No, I just think it'd be good to bring the class, but you gotta get some overview, make that be a part of the new members class as they're coming in, like knowing you have the expectation now, are you gonna be connected to them now, or you gonna be connected to a DOC. It's actually gonna be a lifestyle, real, kind of expectation, ministry.
And we can kind of make it a part of who the line is once you join.
So you already kind of knowing and knowing,
Right.
this is gonna happen.
Got it. It's almost like what we're doing with film now. If you join since November 2008, automatically you put it in film now. Same thing with this, is what I'm hearing. Automatically, you would be connected to a disciple. So that's another part of the process. It's kind of understanding, figuring out who's disciples and who in the congregation even needs to be healed. That makes sense? And really, if you kind of think about it, maybe initially, even those who say, well, I'm at the disciple level. First of all, let's see. We see your credentials. But it wouldn't be there for them to go through a class. Okay? Kind of a disciple class. Okay? Good deal. Good deal. I can really hit the grind maybe next week, and we'll talk this week. See if I can get that document, kind of at least kind of roll. Okay? All right, good deal. Going to keep those names we heard in prayer. Let's have Minister Willis, why don't you pull this up?
Most precious, our gracious Heavenly Father, we thank you for the eyes and seen ears and heard today. We ask that God to speak to our hearts and our minds, raise us up on every side, Lord, that we can be all better. Bless each home and family that's represented. Bless us as we depart from this place and never leave our presence. Lord, we thank you for the shepherd, our pastor, his leadership, his devotion, his dedication. We thank you so much. We pray in Jesus' name.
Amen.
Oh, I didn't want to go to blank there.
All right.